You keep escaping into distraction. You tell yourself you're resting, but most of the time you're not actually resting. You're escaping. There's a difference. Rest restores energy, escape interrupts discomfort. And a lot of people have become so uncomfortable being alone with their own thoughts that silence immediately triggers the need for stimulation. Phone, music, videos, scrolling, notifications, constant noise. Not because all of it is meaningful, but because distraction changes emotional state temporarily. That's why people can spend hours scrolling and still feel mentally exhausted afterward. The nervous system never actually relaxed. The distraction simply redirected attention away from discomfort for a while. And once silence returns, the anxiety comes back, the pressure comes back, the unfinished thoughts come back. So people reach for stimulation again. Eventually, distraction stops feeling intentional. It becomes automatic. Now every uncomfortable emotion triggers the same response: escape. Distraction is emotional relief. Most people think distraction is an attention problem, but a lot of the time it's actually emotional regulation. Because distraction is rarely random. Usually something uncomfortable appeared first. Boredom, stress, loneliness, pressure, mental resistance. Then the brain searches for relief, and distraction provides instant interruption. That's why scrolling feels addictive. Not because every video matters, but because each swipe temporarily prevents emotional contact. For a few seconds, you are no longer confronting yourself, and your nervous system rewards that interruption. Now the pattern strengthens, discomfort appears, attention escapes, relief arrives. Repeat. Eventually, silence starts feeling emotionally loud. Stillness starts feeling uncomfortable. And people lose the ability to remain present without stimulation, constantly running in the background. You are losing the ability to stay present. One of the biggest consequences of constant distraction is this: your attention span weakens emotionally before it weakens mentally. People think they cannot focus because something is wrong with their brains. Usually, their nervous system just became intolerant to stillness because focus requires emotional contact. The moment you sit down to study, work, create, write, or build something meaningful, discomfort appears. Not dramatic pain, just subtle internal friction, restlessness, pressure, boredom, urges to escape. And because the brain has practiced interruption repeatedly, attention immediately leaves. Check the phone, open another tab, refresh something, look for stimulation. People think they are making conscious decisions, but most of the time the nervous system is simply following conditioned escape patterns. Your brain learned that movement away from discomfort creates relief, so now sustained focus feels emotionally unnatural. Modern distraction never ends. This is what makes modern distraction so dangerous. Yet there is no natural stopping point anymore. Years ago, boredom existed, silence existed, waiting existed. Now stimulation is permanently available. Every second of discomfort can be interrupted instantly. That changes human behavior dramatically. People no longer process emotions fully. They interrupt them. They no longer sit with uncertainty. They distract from it. They no longer feel boredom long enough to develop creativity. They escape it immediately. This is why so many people feel mentally fragmented now. Their attention is constantly redirected before thoughts fully settle. Their nervous system never fully stabilizes. Eventually, even short periods of silence start feeling uncomfortable. That's when people begin saying things like, "I can't focus anymore," or "I always feel restless." But often the deeper issue is this: their nervous system forgot how to remain present without stimulation. Distraction trains avoidance. A lot of people think distraction is harmless because it looks normal. Everyone scrolls, everyone multitasks, everyone consumes content constantly. But normal does not mean healthy, because distraction slowly trains avoidance. Every time discomfort appears and attention escapes immediately, the brain learns, do not stay here. Now, emotional tolerance shrinks. Boredom becomes harder to tolerate. Silence becomes harder to tolerate. Slow progress becomes harder to tolerate. Even simple tasks become harder because the brain expects constant stimulation now. Meaningful work is usually slower than stimulation. Building something real unfolds slowly. Healing unfolds slowly. Discipline unfolds slowly. But dopamine moves fast. So the nervous system starts preferring intensity over depth. And eventually people lose the ability to stay engaged with anything that unfolds gradually. This is the real problem. You are not weak because you struggle with distraction. You are conditioned. Your nervous system has been trained to escape discomfort instantly. That's different. The problem is not technology itself. The problem is unconscious dependence on interruption. Because once distraction becomes your primary emotional regulation tool, stillness starts feeling threatening. And when stillness feels threatening, focus becomes difficult. Presence becomes difficult. Consistency becomes difficult. Not because you are incapable, but because your brain no longer feels safe without stimulation. Distraction makes you more exhausted. A lot of people think distraction helps them recover, but constant stimulation often creates even more exhaustion. Your nervous system was never designed to absorb endless information without pause. Every notification, message, video, and content shift keeps attention moving constantly. Mentally, you never fully settle anywhere. And because your brain is always consuming, reacting, comparing, and switching focus, real recovery never happens. That's why people can spend an entire day doing nothing and still feel mentally drained afterward. The nervous system stayed activated the entire time. True rest usually contains stillness, slowness, and space. But distraction removes all of those things. It keeps the mind busy enough to avoid emotional contact while simultaneously exhausting attention. You're losing depth. One of the worst effects of constant distraction is that people slowly lose the ability to go deep. Deep thought requires sustained attention. Deep relationships require presence. Deep work requires patience. Deep healing requires emotional contact. But distraction trains fragmentation. Now attention constantly jumps before thoughts fully develop. People skim everything, consume everything quickly, and move on instantly. Eventually, they begin expecting life itself to move at the speed of stimulation. But real life doesn't work that way. Real change feels slower. Real confidence builds gradually. Real discipline develops through repetition. And emotionally avoidant people struggle with this because their nervous system has become addicted to interruption. The moment things slow down, the urge to escape appears again. You rebuild focus by stopping the escape loop. Most people try to rebuild focus through productivity hacks, but focus usually improves when emotional avoidance decreases. Your nervous system needs to relearn that discomfort is survivable without immediate interruption. That means boredom has to stop being treated like an emergency. Silence has to stop being treated like danger. Restlessness has to stop controlling behavior automatically. The goal is not perfection. The goal is rebuilding tolerance, staying with discomfort slightly longer than your old pattern, sitting with stillness slightly longer, continuing the task slightly longer before escaping. Every time you remain present instead of instantly distracting yourself, your brain learns something new. Discomfort does not require escape. This is how you change. You do not have an attention problem as much as you have an escape habit. Your brain learned that distraction creates temporary relief, so now every uncomfortable emotion triggers the urge to leave mentally. But constant escape slowly disconnects you from your own life. You stop being fully present, fully focused, fully engaged. Your attention becomes fragmented because your nervous system no longer trusts stillness. That's why the solution is deeper than productivity advice. The real shift happens when you stop treating discomfort like something you must immediately escape from. Because once your nervous system learns that boredom, uncertainty, silence, and emotional friction are survivable, Attention begins returning naturally. Focus stops feeling forced. Presence stops feeling impossible. And eventually you regain something most distracted people lose completely: the ability to stay. Thank you for watching. This is MindStickz.